All right, why don't we get started? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Saul Simon, and I'm a certified financial planner. I'm in business 35 years. I'm a fiduciary. My passion is about educating people so that they have an understanding and clarification as to what it is they're trying to accomplish, where are they, where do they want to go, and what's the most effective method of getting there. And I'll go into a little bit more detail a little later about myself and my practice. But when it comes to certain licenses, life, disability, long-term care insurance is what I help people acquire, acting as their advocate. And when it comes to investment management services, I'm on a Fidelity platform, and that gives me the privilege to use Vanguard and inexpensive ETFs to help people to put in a 401k plan, manage a 401k rollover, or in their investments. So with that, I'd like to say good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. This is being recorded. If you want to raise your hand a little later, and we could try to take some questions. But I'm going to turn it over to Ilene Greene, who will be hosting our workshop. And Neale, it's so awesome always to see you, and I appreciate you joining us. Ilene, take over.
Thank you, Saul. And I just want to introduce, for those of you who are not familiar with Neale Godfrey, although I can't imagine anyone in America not knowing who she is, she has become more or less the voice for women and families in the financial realm. She's a motivator, trainer, speaker, and author of 28 books. The newest one just came out. You can talk a little bit about it when we turn it over to you. And has been a #1 New York Times bestseller author. Neale was one of the first I think actually the first female executive at Chase Manhattan Bank, which is amazing, and then became the president of the first women's bank and founder of the first children's bank at FAO Schwartz. In 1989, she formed her own company called the Children's Financial Network, and she has had the mission since then of educating families and children and parents about how to save and respect money. She obviously has earned numerous awards, too many to mention here. And I'm very excited to be moderating this panel today about empowering financial empowerment for women. And I just want to add that Saul has many, many women in his practice. And that was one of the reasons that prompted this discussion today. So with that, let's get started. And I'm going to turn it over to both of you with this question, but why does it seem to many people that women are less empowered than men when it comes to money, whether it's handling their money or talking about their money? So I'm going to start with you, Neale, and just give us your insights.
Well, and Saul will know, because he's seen this in his practice, that somehow we have passed the legacy on generation after generation that polite people don't talk about money, and that traditionally women were not supposed to be the ones who were the breadwinners or even the ones handling the money. So it's kind of built into our psyche that when we come into the next relationship, that we become disempowered handling our own money. Money's the biggest secret in the family. We don't talk about it. We don't deal with it. And so many of our moms and grandmas were told about money by their husbands. Don't worry your pretty little head. You're taken care of. Now, none of us know what that means. And I know, Saul, in your practice, how many times have you seen women come in to be so disempowered handling their own money, right?
Yeah, so, and I'm a stand to have women understand and acknowledge what it is they have and where they're going with it. So what I've learned from your peers sharing with me is that when you were children, Dad didn't include you in this conversation. It's like, you go do art you go do whatever you want to do. And the boys are now going to have a conversation at dinner to discuss finance. And I actually am getting a chill over it because, like you said, Neale, it's just like it's in our system that this is something we were, quote, sheltered from. And what's pretty awesome is, from a statistics perspective, women are actually better investors than men. And I acknowledge all the women that are actually on the program or going to be viewing this program for taking the time and actually wanting to learn, and they care, and they want to have the confidence. They want to have the peace of mind and a game plan so that you take care of yourselves. Ladies, you're living longer than guys are. So the statistics also are higher that, you're going to be on your own. Like, a terminology is a solo ager. So, so I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. So with that question in mind, let's get into the nitty-gritty of how do we and how are we changing that mindset? And I think it is changing with younger women. I mean, just personally, I know some of the young women that are in my life, my daughter, her friends, and some women that I do business with. I think women are becoming much more savvy, but you have a wide range of ages of women who are still in that older mindset of, I don't take care of the money, I don't know what to do, I don't know who to talk to. So how do we go about, keeping this momentum going for women to become empowered? Neale?
Well, I think the big thing is, just do it. Just take charge of it. Just jump in and do it. We figure out all sorts of things. We go in and buy cars. I don't know what torque is, but I don't care what torque is. To me, it's some kind of a dessert. I don't care. The whole point is that I know what I want that vehicle to do. I have kids. I want to turn around and grab them. I want, to make sure there's a back seat. I know what I want in my car. And the same thing with financial vehicles. I don't have to know every single thing about it. I have to know what's the money for. And when I walk in and I speak to Saul or another financial planner, I know the first question that he or she should be asking me is, what's the money for? What do you want your life to look like? And then what they're going to do, what Saul's going to do is design that financial life for you. I have to sit there and say that makes sense or it doesn't make sense. And I used to do financial tips from Grandma Jewel when I had a radio show, and Grandma was 95 years old, and Grandma would come on and give financial tips. Grandma didn't know anything about money. It didn't matter. We would say, Grandma, how do you pick a financial planner? She goes, the same way you pick a hairdresser. If you like her and your friends recommend, and she's going to do what you want, then that's where you go. That's the same way you pick a dry cleaner. It's the same way you pick anyone in your life is going to help you. And if it doesn't make sense, get out. But you're going to sit down with Saul. He's going to help you design it. And you know what? Bite the bullet, get involved. And then all of a sudden, women come back and say, that's it? That's all I had to know? Yeah. Well, that's not so hard. No, it's not so hard. Think about what you're juggling in your life. That really is hard. Kids and family and career and the dog vomited on me on the way to work. Think of all the stuff you're juggling. The financial part, it isn't that complicated, and you can get the professionals in your life to help you.
I think to that point, though, up till now, because of the way financial companies promoted themselves, it always seemed the woman was not so involved, whether it was in the marketing or in the advertising of it. So I think women just sort of assumed or, didn't feel they were, like you say, up to handling the task. But, clearly that's not the case. And to Saul's point, I had a note here that women do handle finances better than men. It's been statistically proven.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they do because of exactly what I said. What's the money for? It's not about betting or winning or the next hot tip.
Yep.
or being the big guy at the cocktail party, or saying, I just got 55%. Women know if you get 55%, somebody's getting negative 55%.
Right.
I want to make sure I can sleep at night. I call it the cold sweat test. That's what Saul's going to help you. I do not want to wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat. I want to know the money's going to be there when I need it. Right, Saul?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I also, again, ladies, and I see there's a couple guys on the program. I say everything with respect. I think women tend to have less of an ego. So they're actually open to actually listening and learning and following some objective guidance from a coach, which I hold myself out to be. If you're married, or if you have girlfriends that are married, now more than ever, I really, in my heart, feel that you should know where your money is. You're signing your tax return. So you might as well know what you have, where it is, so that if something happens in your relationship, you're not caught off guard and feeling blind and vulnerable and scared. So I have, some takeaways, like, you need to know where your money is. You need to know, how are you invested? How much risk are you willing to take? And risk really means volatility. And there's a science to investing. So there's really a science to investing. And I'm more than willing to share this now or later in the context of, looking out and providing for you. And then I'll say one more tip, and then we can go back to some Q&A, which is your budget. And are you saving money? And on a monthly basis, are you saving money, and are you paying yourself first? Because that's chapter 1 of the book, which is, I want you to be on top of the list because everybody else gets paid and we tend to be on the bottom. And I want you to be on top to take
And
care
that's
of
a
you.
really good point, because one of my next questions was going to be, with the divorce rate being what it is today, probably somewhere around 50%, give or take a little bit, of women are finding themselves either alone, on their own, or a single parent. And I understand also that a lot of women are choosing or are finding themselves separated or divorced over 55 or 60 years old. So let's talk a little bit about, that knowing where your money is and your personality of risk, and where do you go when you find yourself as a single woman? And Neale, I'm going to turn it over to you because you deal so much with this. Let's talk about that a bit.
Well, actually, my next book is about gray divorce, which is getting divorced after 50. It's a phenomena that's happening, and it's doubled the rate since the 90s. And actually 1 in 4 women will be divorced over 50 years old, a phenomena that did not happen 30 years ago. And by the way, the numbers are skewed because the fact of the matter is our millennials and Gen Zs are living together longer. Some of them are not getting married. Right. So if you're not getting married, you're not getting divorced. So it doesn't mean that you're not splitting up. So we don't have the split up number, but the split up number is going to show that it's the same thing. Again, if you're carrying this paradigm into your later life that, oh, my husband handled the money, oh, he was doing that. Just like Saul said, you may not know where the money is, what it's doing, what it's there for, and what happens to you if something happens to him. We will live longer. You will, as a woman, live by yourself in later life, statistically. If you don't get divorced, you're going to outlive him. So here's a perfect opportunity to start to take charge of your financial life. And as I said, just snip off little pieces. Today, I'm going to work on looking at my investments and what does that mean? What are they going to yield? How does the money come in? When does the money come in? How does that work? Okay, that's cool. Now, tomorrow, what I'm going to do is say, I'm going to get a handle on that budget. But the deal about budgeting is you need to look back and find out what you're spending. Don't just jump into a budget and decide I'm doing a budget, because they never work. It's like the diet in January. You sign up for the gym and then you never go back. And it's the same thing with the budget. You write the budget, but you never go back to it. Write down what's important. But when you're following your expenses to find out how much money you're really spending, does that Starbucks coffee bring you the joy that you really wanted to, of the $5 or $10 you're saving a day? Because that same $5 or $10 over the last 10 years, if you had invested in Starbucks stock over that period of time, you would have $10,000 of Starbucks stock. What's going to make you happier? And here's the great news. You get to decide. So when you sit down with Saul, you say to him, this is what I want my life to look like. Don't let anyone tell you what it should look like. You decide what you want it to look like. I want to get the kids to college. I want to retire at this age. I want to travel. I want to live near the grandchildren. I want to downsize. I want to live with a bunch of friends. You get to decide. Then Saul can say, okay, get the backhoe. Now let's decide today what you have to start saving to get you there.
Yeah, and I think
it works.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but I know Saul has, we've talked about situations where women have come to you after a divorce or unfortunate, have become a widow, having absolutely no idea what's going on. And so at that point, it's a little late in the game, which is why we're trying, one of the reasons we chose to have this webinar was to teach women to start young. And I would say to you, Saul, how young? As soon as you start working, what's the right time for a woman to jump in and get started?
Yeah, I just got, yes, the earlier you start, the better and more confident you are. And there's no reason why. I mean, I have a couple of my clients, college students, as clients, and I give myself away because that's just my commitment or my passion. And it's not necessarily, I'm looking out for my time and my pocketbook, to be very authentic. But I absolutely love when one of my clients' kids call me or say I have some questions, and I get to walk them through. And I pride myself on being able to speak in a clear, non-jargon manner, and in a way that they actually hear it, understand it, and can apply it. Again, on the shoulders of what Neale just said, just another tip that I had, took some notes and wanted to share is if you're able to identify specific goals, both short, mid, and long term, and that could be financial independence and retirement or funding a child's education, we now know how we go about planning to achieve those goals. I know it sounds easy, but that's the purpose of doing some financial modeling. And if you feel that you're not a numbers person, we can use some pictures and graphs. And it's about telling a financial story so that you actually can apply it and you have knowledge. There's an expression that if I bought you lunch, you're full. But if I teach you how to fish, you could always feed yourself. So, what I try to do is like, taxes and financial planning, it's like a 7-8 foot wall. But if I'm able to put a little step ladder there and you kind of step on it a little bit and start to peek over it, and I'm able to speak and share and educate so you could hear it and understand it, ultimately you have confidence and you just feel better about being able to share what you're doing, how you're going about doing it. And then frankly, all those decisions that you're making on a daily basis actually have some meaning that you really now can choose freely as to, for example, does the $5 coffee at Starbucks, to have that experience, does it serve your financial goals?
Yeah, and that is the point that you're making, is that by starting young and by having somebody you or somebody like you break down all those scary things, those walls, that helps tremendously. And I think that's part of what we talk about when we say empowering a woman to move ahead with her finances. I want to jump in here with a question that Neale posed to me when we were going back and forth to prepare for this. You mentioned financial infidelity. Please tell us what that is.
Well, a lot of people grew up with the paradigm that money situations and talking about money are the biggest secrets in a relationship. In fact, years ago, I was doing Oprah a lot and was lucky enough to work with her for 4.5 years. And one of the things is we would do financial shows. So we would go out to try to get people to talk about their finances. And it was easier to get people to talk about their sex lives than it was to get people to talk about money, because the couples would go, oh, no, 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 that's personal. And it's like, wait a minute, you're sleeping with this guy and this is not personal, but talking about money is personal. So, I mean, think about our mindset. So when we bring this baggage into our relationships, there are often times that you may be keeping things from your spouse. That's the infidelity part. You might be hiding bills. You might have that separate credit card. You might say to the kids, hey, you know what? I'll buy this for you, but don't tell your father. Yeah, but don't share this information. Or, you know, mom says to the kid, no, I am not giving you any more money. That's it. You have to do your allowance and earn your money. And then the kid slips off to dad. Dad takes out the $20 bill and says, don't tell your mother. I mean, that is financial infidelity. You are undermining each other. You're essentially lying. Is that the way you want to bring your kids up? That, you know what? It's okay to be sneaky about money. Other stuff you need to be honest about, but it's okay to bring this into a relationship. And so
very often, very often I actually hold myself out. Some of the psychology classes I took when I was in school and afterwards in various training, I feel like I'm a behaviorist coach also, where I'm grateful when people take me into their confidence and say things that are vulnerable and say and share their dreams or their fears. And I've had people say to me, so I've never told anybody that before. And I truly take that very powerfully. But I, one of the things I say to people is, are you a saver or a spender? And I actually go through this whole Q&A process for a human being, because not everybody's married in a heterosexual relationship. It's just human beings. How do you operate? What are your thoughts? What did you learn about money? What does money mean?
I would label that like a financial personality, I guess, right? Like almost a financial personality quiz.
It is.
I know this has nothing to do with religion, but as a Jewish person, I eat food either in celebration or upset versus doing drugs and alcohol. And I'm just being authentic. So some people go out and they shop and they buy things and spend money to make them feel good, like deserving. Or they do other things that when they reflect and think about it and say, gee, maybe I didn't need to do that action, which didn't serve me. And now it's sitting in the corner and it's not fulfilling, the goal at the time. So these are things that we all have to look at. And I think the most important, just to circle back, is who are you? What are you trying to accomplish? Where do you want to go? What's it going to take to get there? And have you taken or found an individual or a team of people that you can actually talk to that have respect for you, that make eye contact with you, so you can engage and be able to build a relationship to accomplish what it is you desire? Part of financial planning is also the protection aspect, which now goes into like insurance, life insurance, disability insurance, long-term care insurance. That's the protection aspect, just like you have car insurance and homeowners insurance. And then there's legal documents. I'm not a lawyer, but I sure know enough to be able to offer insight and understanding that, we want to protect your assets. You want to protect your assets. So there are trusts. There is a will. There's a power of attorney. There's a living will. If you have children over the age of 18, you have to have a living will, not only on your life, but also on your adult 18-year-old child's life. Because if, God forbid, something happened to one of my 2 children, I want to know that the doctor can engage in a conversation with me and I know what's going on and I'll be there ASAP. But if I don't have these various legal documents in place where I'm crossing some T's and dotting some I's, I'm leaving myself vulnerable. And I don't need to be, quote, yelling. I'm just getting excited. I'm sorry, because these are really important pieces of one's financial retirement and estate plan. And very often it's my experience, I'm sorry to say this, is that our current advisors are so busy doing their insurance or busy doing the investments like a stockbroker that they're not looking at this comprehensive, big picture to protect and look out for you.
Interesting. So getting back a little bit to a lot of women out there who are single moms, divorced or widowed or by choice nowadays. Some women just decide to raise a family without a partner.
I've got some clients, yes.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. We're living in a different time now.
Which I have such acknowledgement for them. I really do.
Absolutely.
When a woman says to me, hey, I just want to bring you into the loop. I've decided to have a child and they're not in a relationship and they want to pursue and have a family. I'm like, congratulations. I think that's extraordinary. And you don't necessarily need a partner to be able to fulfill a goal, which is I want to have children. Got it. Sorry.
No, but that's a very good point. My point was going to be, and again, for both of you, you're living as a single woman or divorced, whatever, a woman by herself, raising a family, whether it's one child or many children, you're paying rent or a mortgage or part of a rent and a mortgage, and more than likely working at least one job, possibly two. So, how do you start to sort out where you can get the money from? And I know, Neale, again, because you've dealt so much with family, teaching them what to do and how to teach the children what's important and stuff. So just maybe some tips or thoughts about that.
Sure. I mean, I was a single parent. My husband decided it was good timing to leave me 18 hours after my son was born in the hospital. He thought that was a good time. So I had to deal with all sorts of mishigas and planning. And it's one of those things that what happened was in terms of the money, but in terms of your life, and you can't really separate those, is actually my rabbi said to me, put something on your wall, and I still have it on my wall. I can't move it. But in fact, I made a bracelet out of it. I have a bracelet that says, does it matter profoundly? And if the answer comes up yes, then that is what you do. That is what you save for. That is where you split your time, and that is who you are. If the answer comes up, it doesn't matter profoundly, don't do it. And it's a really easy way to live. And as a single mom, obviously I was working. I was, the sole support of the family. And yes, I was a bank president, but that means there's more pull on my time, not less. And raising the kids and wanting to be there and doing all this stuff. And it's like, I remember getting a call in the middle of a board meeting. I was running. I was CEO of a public corporation. It's in the middle of a board meeting. My secretary always knew if the nanny was on the phone, she could get me. So I'm trying to take this phone call in the middle of a board meeting. and my nanny in the middle of a snowstorm says to me, I ran out of diapers. What do I do? So I have to sit there, swivel my chair after running a board meeting or in the middle of it. And every board member is listening to me and I'm teaching her how to freaking make a diaper. Go get the Kotex. Go get safety pins. They're in the top drawer. Go get a plastic bag, cut it and make sure you do. Then take masking tape and mask the baby. I'm going through this and I'm like, really? Really? This is what I have to do. I'm running a company, but this is what you have to do. And as long as you can keep your head on straight and don't do this up that's, superfluous, and keep on track and know that you love them. As a single mom, that's what you do. I work with wounded veterans out of Syracuse University who've come back wounded and can't do what they can, obviously, what they thought they were going to be. And we're helping them to be, it's horrible, helping them to become entrepreneurs so they can do something different in their life. And one of the speeches that I give is about work-life balance. And I start the speech out by saying, there is no such thing as work-life balance. Let it go. Just deal with every day and do the best that you can do and make sure you've got your eye on the ball in the future. And that's where investing, and that's where the budget, and that's where it comes in. And unfortunately, as parents, we tend to substitute money for time, and that's not what the kids want or need. So stop it. Stop doing it. And like Saul said, look at those behaviors that you want to stop doing. Stop them. Yeah, sorry, Saul.
No. It's amazing the pressure. Again, ladies, I am being respectful because I am a man. And it is unbelievable the pressure I observe, I listen to that women are under today. I gained more respect when my ex-wife was pregnant with our children. I'll never forget how vulnerable and lack of control we had in making sure to have a healthy child. And as I've watched women be moms and take care of life, I don't know how and why women have taken on all the responsibilities of career, employment, managing employees, managing a nanny, managing the house, managing the children, taking care and deciding what are we doing for dinner tonight, let alone, and we're going out with the Jones next Saturday night, and handling the social calendar. I mean, it just absolutely baffles me.
And throw in taking care of aging parents into that mix also.
I'll put in aging parents and raising the kids to be financially responsible. But you know what? Here's the deal. We can do it. We have to take a deep breath. And again, does it matter profoundly? I was crazed about being able to have children. I lost 9 before I was able to have the 2 that I have. And people say to me, what are you nuts? I mean, I was pregnant for 11 years, which, by the way, talk about eating. I ate for 11 years. But the fact of the matter is, if you keep your eye on the ball and you know what's important and does it matter profoundly, and what do I want for those children? I want to get them to college. I want them to have the healthcare. I want them to have that understanding to be financially responsible. And by the way, raising them that you're not just here to take up space, you must give back. You must figure out what your passion is. And actually, both of my kids are entrepreneurs, one in the wellness space and one in being a social entrepreneur, working with 33,000 farm families in India. Wow. So yeah, you reap what you sow. And, are you going to be able to look back on your life and say, okay, you know what? I wasn't there for every soccer game. I wasn't there for every, but was I there? And that's the answer, Saul. And can you design that financial life? And are you willing to look at it today to forego some of the garbage that you don't need to make sure that you do have what you need? and for yourself. And by the way, your aging parents. I mean, we're hit with all of it. We're hit with all of it.
What's also interesting, again, just from experience, is when a woman takes off work to take care of a child or take care of an aging parent, they're leaving employment, which means they're now leaving contributing to their 401k retirement plans. They're leaving an inability to stay invested, to receive 100% from a vesting perspective, and or I have corporate clients, women, female corporate clients that are receiving stock options and all these other benefits, perks, part of their benefit pay that they're giving up because they're being pulled in other directions. So I just want to again, just as a reminder, to put together a game plan, to put together a financial plan, so you're able to determine where you're going, what are your needs, where am I, where do I want to go, and what's the most efficient, effective way to get there so that you're protected and you can produce the result.
And to come back to Neale's quote of "does it matter profoundly," that's really ringing in my head, because how often I think women especially are pulled by that shiny object that we see, oh, that extra pair of shoes or that designer bag that I have to have because my friends have it or because I think it's going to make me a better person. But at the end of the day, as you said, add all those up over the years. And that's why I think, teaching children early what is important, how to spend their allowance and, what are they saving for? Is it a special thing or is it just tossing it away on junk every week? I think that's the way to see. In my mind, it's like starting really young with the kids and teaching them the value of money. You obviously see that every day, Neale. And I know now you're also getting involved with grandparents, because I know there are grandparents that have, a decent amount of money saved in their retirement or in their savings. And, you often read, don't take your money out of as you get, older and more mature, don't use that money for your kids or your grandkids. But I'm sure there's some balance there that maybe you'd like to share with us.
Absolutely. Well, my latest book, Be Money Smart in Tough Times for Parents and Grandparents, deals with all these issues. When to get the kids involved, when to start, and the special issues for grandparents too, in terms of, do you take your retirement money to pay for college? And Saul will tell you that kids can borrow for college, but you can't borrow for retirement. But I start the kids learning about money when they start saying, I want, which is about age 3. And I get them involved in understanding the natural consequences of money. The only way you earn money, or the only way you get money, is to earn it. There's no entitlement program. It's not that I'm out there whining for something. So it starts them really understanding a work for pay system. I do chores, which is allowance. I earn money. And then I teach them how to budget that. But there are 2 types of chores in a household. There's citizen of the household chores, where you don't get paid because you need to learn to be a good citizen of the household and the community and the world. I mean, we recycle not necessarily for ourselves, we do it for the world. So you're starting to teach those values to the kids through money. And then as part of the allowance system, work for pay, they do little chores, they earn their money, and they budget. And part of the budget, and we know that most adults in America think that a budget is an object of torture. I mean, it's up there with root canal, but it's not. It's empowerment. It's how you get to design your life. And I build a budget for a kid to let them start to learn the values within the household. So 10% comes off the top for charity. They need to get involved in what charity is and giving at a very young age, including volunteerism, because giving of yourself is important. And then I divide the rest of the allowance. There's quick cash, which is instant gratification. They worked hard, they get to make choices. Then I have another portion where you push off instant gratification, save for something larger. And then there's long-term savings. And I know you're going to say, I mean, does a 3-year-old understand the concept of long-term savings? No. Does a 10-year-old understand long-term savings? No. Saul can attest to the fact that the adults in America don't understand the concept of long-term savings. So we might as well start the habit when they're young.
But I think that's the whole point. The whole point is starting, even when they, as you said, I don't need to know what torque is. I just want to get a car. I don't need to know the concept, but you're being taught something that becomes a habit.
Exactly.
One of the things I also share with families, parents, grandparents, is setting up some sort of like a family 401k plan. Meaning, if the child saves, $10, mom and dad are going to match it with $2, with $1, 10%, 20%. Everybody uses their own budget, but it's actually showing a person that by putting the money here, they're actually getting a benefit, and it gives them some enticement to be able to put that money away. In addition, I've often have, investment statement readings, so people actually understand what they own and what's inside of their investment statement. And if you actually can share this with children, like, that you actually own Disney, like you actually own Mickey Mouse, like to spring, depending on the age, you know what I mean? It's just about education, and it's just being able to create a relatable understanding so that there is some understanding as to, by looking ahead, this is the benefit. And I'm so thankful that financial planning and money on some level is being taught in the schools now, because when I was a kid, there was no learning of financial planning or any type of money management. And that's starting to happen also. Neale, you've done a lot of great work in that space.
Well, I actually created the topic of teaching kids about money in 1988 when I opened up the first children's bank, because it did not exist as a topic. And 28 books later, we're still pushing it. And the fact of the matter is, Saul, our schools don't teach enough about financial literacy. There are only 17 states that have mandated any teaching of financial literacy. And even in New Jersey, you don't have to take a course until the end of your senior year. And it's a 2.5-hour course. And you know where kids are at the end of senior year. So I started the original lobbying effort back in the 80s to get the Treasury Department and the White House and our governor and everyone else going on financial literacy. Ohio was the first state that I was successful in terms of lobbying to get them to approve any financial literacy. That's why private corporations and companies like, yours and Lincoln Financial have to step up to the plate and also do this. It takes a village. So as parents and grandparents and companies and schools and after school programs, I had an after school program that was sponsored by Deloitte, and we reached 500,000 at-risk children to educate them about financial literacy.
Fabulous. Thank you. Awesome. Awesome.
I've worked with 200,000 military kids, families, in 85 bases around the world. We need to all do this together because it's important. It's our kids, our future. And, if we don't do this together, we're just going to keep repeating the same things. I mean,
by the way, when we talk about empowering women, a lot of this discussion has been about the financial aspect. One of the important pieces of the information that I just need to share is that you really need to take care of yourself, like holistically, spiritually, physically, financially, because you're so busy and you have so much pressure on you that if you don't take care of you, you can't take care of everyone else. and I'm a stand to make sure, and that's why we're hosting, that's why I said, let's put together a program and a workshop about empowering women, because you got a lot of pressure on yourselves and you're so busy taking care of everyone else that you're putting yourself on the back burner. And we're not machines, although we are machines. Machines break. So you really need to take care of you in order for you to be able to have the depth of your shoulders to be able to be busy and take care of everything on your plate.
For
Simon
sure.
says, that was a Simon says.
Simon says. So we're gonna get close to wrapping it up and we'll go to see if anybody has Q&A. But before we do that, Neale, give us your website if anyone would like to go visit it.
Sure. NealeGodfrey.com.
Easy enough.
It's an easy enough. And I also write for Kiplinger. So you can go into Kiplinger, Neale Godfrey, and take a look at my articles.
Wonderful. And Saul, you're at saulsimon.com. And right now we have up on your homepage a download called Women and Investing. So if anyone is interested, it's a wonderful ebook that they can download as a PDF. It's got lots of great information about women in investing. So if anyone's interested, you know, please visit saulsimon.com and grab that ebook. I'm going to see if anyone has a question by raising their hand. Does anybody have any questions?
And they can go into Amazon, Neale Godfrey, and
Oh yeah, your books are all there.
my books are there. Yeah.
What was your first book? I'm trying to remember and I can't.
Well, my first book was called The Kid's Money Book, clever title. But the one that hit #1 in the New York Times bestseller list was called Money Doesn't Grow on Trees.
Right. That's it.
Guide to Raising Financially Responsible Children. And Oprah literally held the book up and said, I have children just to do Neale's allowance system. And of course it was like, woohoo. And, you know, that hit #1 in the New York Times bestseller list and validated the topic that it was important to teach kids about money, because I was a lone wolf and people would say, why is it important to raise kids to be money savvy? And it was like,
Yeah.
Crazy, right.
Yes.
And Saul, you have a book on Amazon also called Love Your Legacy, which is also a super packed with all kinds of information for families and people who want to learn about, you know, estate planning and putting away for retirement and making those plans for what you want out of your life. So another
one of the things that most people take away from my book, Love Your Legacy, A Guide to Financial Education for You and Your Family, is frankly, it's the word communication. It's actually having the conversation with your children, with your family, sharing values, and actually having an understanding as to, you know, I know this is money, but what are my values? What are my feelings? What are my thoughts? And what I would like you to take away should I not be here? And I wrote some great articles, which I'm really proud of, called Having the Talk series, which is also on the website. And that's about, you know, having the talk with your spouse, having the talk with your parents, having the talk with your adult children. Selfishly, folks, I never, ever want to look at my mother and ask her a question and she not be able to answer it for me. And it just hits home for me when I realize how many people are not having those important, loving conversations as to what are my instructions? Where is the legal documents? Where is the financial stuff? And could we have done this in a more effective or less costly manner by just opening the dialogue? And I've been a catalyst objectively to help a lot of people in having that conversation because I'm the outsider. I'm not the child. The parents listening of me is different because I'm just asking questions and I'm speaking almost verbatim, coming from love, coming from they want to produce the result, which is what your intention is. But if we don't engage in that conversation, your children are never going to know the answer to that.
And I think that's very much a generational thing, because I went through it with my parents who have passed on, but that older generation, it was like taboo to talk about any of that with your children or your spouse sometimes. And so that's why I think these conversations now are so incredibly important for everybody. So with that said, does anybody that's on the attending have a question? I think you can just do the raise your hand and we can probably let you speak, but I don't see anyone. So I guess we are about ready to wrap up. And I want to thank Neale Godfrey. You've been amazing, as you always are. Thank you so much for being a panelist. Saul, this was great, very much informative, and I enjoyed being part of this. So thank you.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
anybody has questions, you can reach out to Saul or Neale through their websites and, you know, make contact.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. If you have a question, reach out. This program is being taped and will be put on the website, so you could share it and tell some of your friends, if you've received value, that they may want to tune in and hear some of Neale's insight and verbiage, including some of my thoughts and Ilene's. And again, thanks for tuning in. And I hope to see you soon. Ilene, thank you. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.